Austin, Texas has been called the fastest growing city in America every year for the past decade, but now it's stopped. Let's talk about why. The Wall Street Journal recently came out with an article talking about people leaving Austin. They gave all kinds of stats, demographics, changes, that kind of thing. You can reference all of that. But we work with these people all the time who are selling their house to move. And so we want to tell you from our perspective what is going on and why people are moving out of the city of Austin. All right, so Austin had a kind of a famous boom during the pandemic where a lot of people were drawn to the state of Texas during the pandemic for less restrictions on living. And Austin was kind of a magnet because it has this really fun culture, this artsy vibe. It's been known as the live music capital of the world. Not your typical vanilla city. Lots of flavor, lots of culture that I think a lot of people from all across the nation were drawn to. And so we had tons of people moving into the city during COVID. With them came a lot of money and a lot of bidding wars that drove housing prices up and also drove commercial real estate prices up as businesses relocated into this area. Everybody knew and everybody was saying at the time that the changes happening to Austin during the COVID pandemic were not sustainable because it was just so much rapid growth, so much movement, so much money coming in. And we're starting to see the effects of that. So what we're seeing now is that a lot of local businesses who have been in Austin for a long time can no longer afford to pay the rent, can no longer afford to keep their doors open. So some of our favorites have closed up and either moved out of Austin into cities like Dripping Springs, Round Rock, Cedar Park, Kyle, or they've just closed altogether. Our famous example is Shady Hollow, which is one of the places that Josh and I used to love to go and have drinks and listen to music right on Barton Springs. It's closed up and it's just graffitied now because they couldn't stay open. That has also happened with Z Tejas on West 6th, another one of our old favorites from when we were dating. Z Tejas has opened up some satellite locations outside of Austin, but their old kind of iconic West 6th Street funky location is shuttered and graffitied and will be torn down and replaced pretty soon. So as that has changed, a lot of people have noticed that the culture of Austin seems to have changed. A lot of the culture has moved into the suburbs, and the city, because it's so expensive, has started to draw a lot more high-end corporations, and it doesn't feel quite like Austin used to feel. There have been efforts to help artists and to help some of these downtown music venues to stay afloat, but it's been a struggle, just has seen a lot of change. The skyline as a whole area has changed dramatically over the past decade, where it used to just be a handful of skyscrapers surrounding the UT Capitol or the UT Tower in the Capitol. Now it's so many more skyscrapers. We've got a second downtown up at the Domain with giant tall buildings. There will be more coming in on the south side. So the city is growing up and out. And with it, just pushing a lot of families who need more affordable housing, a lot of local businesses who need more affordable rent out of the city and into the suburbs. All right, reason number 2 is affordability. When I started working in real estate, it was pretty reliable that we could say average appreciation on home values was typically about 5% year over year, sometimes 7, sometimes 4, but you could average it out to be fairly reliably about 5% appreciation year over year. Then when the pandemic hit and all the cash started coming in and we had all the bidding wars, there was times when it was appreciating at 20% month over month. I'm not exaggerating that. That happened. So it was literally a boom. The prices just skyrocketed. We peaked around the spring of 2022 on prices, and there's been a slow decline since then, but it's still so far above pre-pandemic levels. Prices may have dropped maybe 5-10% since the peak, and that is very pocket dependent, depending on where you are in Austin. So they've come down a tiny bit, but the prices are still very high. And now that we have high interest rates on top of that, it's made living and buying a house in Austin a lot less affordable for a lot of people. Reason number 3 that I'm seeing is changes in the economy. living is a lot more expensive. A lot of people were drawn to Austin because it used to be considered more affordable. But since inflation has really gotten so incredibly out of control, everything is more expensive. That has also included property taxes. So, with the rising values of the homes, property taxes also have risen. And Austin, actually, all of Texas has very high property taxes relative to other places. So, I talk to a lot of people who feel like property taxes are just not sustainable when they're coupled with all the other expenses and, grocery, gas, all the other bills that have really increased over the past few years. So they're looking to exit to find a lower, more affordable cost of living. Okay, the next reason I'm seeing people leave Austin is because the traffic is no joke. A lot of people moved in during the pandemic and there wasn't much traffic because everybody was working from home. But now, as companies have started calling workers back to the office, and a lot have instituted new rules where you've got to be there certain number of days a week, people are really struggling with fighting that. Austin doesn't have a terrific mass transportation system. There have been so many plans and just not a lot of progress made on that. There are buses, but the system is just not great. So most people that live here get in their car and drive to work, and sometimes they can sit in their car for an hour trying to get one way on their commute. There is a biking infrastructure in the city. It is a very fitness-friendly, bike-friendly city. Of course, there's still work to be done to make it safer for cyclists, but there is that. But not everybody, of course, takes advantage of riding their bike. And that's a good segue to our next reason is the weather. A lot of people don't want to ride their bike because it is 105 degrees for a good chunk of the year. The past few years, we've had record-breaking heat in Austin. And so a lot of people who moved in from cooler climates have been really shocked at how hot it gets and how long it stays hot. So I've helped people move in from California, from Chicago, who then have turned around and wanted to move back out because they hated the heat. We in Austin cool off by jumping into rivers and pools and staying in air conditioning and eating lots of snow cones and cold drinks and stuff like that during the summer. So that's definitely still an option. Last year, though, we had a drought. And so a lot of the greenbelt hiking where you could hike down and then jump into cool, clear water to cool off, a lot of that was dry and there was no water to jump into. So that was kind of a bummer. You still could do pools, but a lot of the rivers have been low the past few years. So we are praying for more rain this year for the rivers to be high so that we can jump in and cool off. Last reason that I will mention today that I have had people tell me they need to move out is because of job layoffs. So Austin is a very diverse economy. We've got all different kinds of employment opportunities in the Austin area, but tech is a big one, and tech is not having the best year or so. So as the tech companies are laying people off or requiring that they're closer to their headquarters, we have people that have had to move out of the city due to their jobs. So again, Austin is diverse. We've got government, we've got university, we've got schools, we've got medical, we've got all different kinds of employment, and it's withstood that pretty well. But there have been some people that have been impacted just by those changes. So many big changes in the city of Austin. I think this is just a historical shift, but the people that live here are super creative, super innovative, come up with ways to make it work if they want to stay close to this fantastic city. It's still a fantastic city. And so we're seeing a ton of growth in the suburbs, new businesses cropping up outside the city. So it's almost a migration where a lot of people are moving out of the center city into the immediate suburban areas. And some of those even have Austin addresses, which I think is just probably pretty typical for any city that is that's sustaining the kind of growth that we've had. So still a fantastic city that people love to be nearby, and there are ways to do it. So depending on your budget and your preferences, we can talk. I can help you find the best pocket of town for you to live in. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I would love to hear from you anytime.